I'd like to welcome you tonight for what's sure to be a fantastic evening, and not to mention a great rest of the week. So, before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about the Boston Data Festival and what we're about. And then we're going to quickly move on to the keynote speech by our distinguished statistician, Dr. William Kahn. And then we're going to have our Data All-Star panel. And I must tell you, we did get a little bit of grief about calling it a Data All-Star panel. Have you seen that lineup? Well, what else would you call those guys? So, it has to be said that we are very privileged to live in a city that's got so much energy and so many different levels. You know, whether that's sports, of course, or academia, or the companies that are based here, or the people who work here, not to mention startups. And what we're going to talk about tonight is meetups. And I think part of that has to be said, is the wonderful resources we have at our disposal. You know, you think about the Cambridge Innovation Center, Microsoft Nerd Center, and of course, Secondary 9, Hackadoos. These are great spaces that didn't even exist a few short years ago, and they're somewhat indispensable. And it has to be said, we also have to thank our sponsors and the companies that are up here on this board. At the end of the day, these companies get it. They know that this stuff does not exist in a vacuum. They step up, they get out there, they support us, they support this event, they support meetups month in, month out. So I really have to thank RapidMiner, McGraw Hill Education, Penn University, Luminoso, and Adapt. And all those guys out there. Without that support, a lot of stuff wouldn't be possible. And another thing we really have to mention is all the wonderful speakers we have. I'm not sure if any of you guys have done a talk at a meetup, but it takes a long time to put a talk together. And even though it may be a free event, you know, they put a lot of effort into this stuff. We just had a talk at BostonDataFest called Bayesian Data Analysis, and Thomas who did that. I'm sure he didn't put that talk together on a Sunday afternoon when I was lying in the bathtub. You know, that took a lot of work to put together. And as I say, where I come from, you don't want to make a balls of that, so they do put a lot of effort into it. However, the last piece of this puzzle, and the glue that kind of ties everything together, is the event organizers. So people like John Versek over there at Boston Data Analytics, month in, month out, they put events together to help people network, collaborate, and learn. And we also have to do a special mention to Hackadoos, David and our team over there and people behind that. You know, these are really essential for the Meetup tech community. And if you think about it, the Boston Data Festival is just an extension of that. You have dedicated organizers, supportive companies, great venue space, great speakers, and my God, an ungodly amount of pizza that fuels all this stuff. And you know, it has to be said that it's phenomenal that when we got together, I think it was less than 12 part-time organizers over 8 short weeks, managed to secure 7 different venues with 24 different events, 36 different speakers and panelists, and attracted close to 2,400 registrants all over 7 days. And again, that's the testament to the great Meetup community support we have out here. So, our goals are simple. We want to help people, as John says, network, collaborate, and learn. And, you know, because when you come to these events, it's that small spark of a conversation that can lead to your next project, your next job, your next career. Because at the end of the day, you know, jobs, they come and go. Passion, yeah, I'm not going to say it lasts forever, but it does last a long time. So, all I'm going to say to you guys is get out there and get going, right? So, now I'd like to introduce a person to many of you who needs no introduction, John Versek of Boston Data Analytics. Please welcome John. Actually, another person who needs no introduction. Adrian from Hackadoos, please.
Hey guys, I'm Adrienne from Hackers. Hackers is 1 year old now. Launched last November. It has been so much fun. Thank you to Chris Lynch and Fred Lalonde for the great idea. It's been a fun year for me and for a lot of you guys who spent a lot of time there. And of course, thank you to this amazing community for making this hackerspace so great. We're here as an educational, scientific nonprofit with the mission to promote the growth and the development of the technologies and skills required to process, analyze, and apply data. We're spending our time at Hacker Use closely looking at every aspect of managing and leveraging big data. We believe that the means of big data are limited, and the technologies and data itself are hard to access, and we're here to change that. At our events, participants are learning, creating, tackling issues, solving hard problems, and collaborating amongst peers. A huge thank you, of course, to our amazing sponsors. It would not be possible without our partners, and you can expect to see this list grow quite a bit throughout the year. We're also fortunate to be close to many local universities, such as Boston University, Bentley, Emerson, MIT, Harvard, UMass Boston, UMass Dartmouth, UMass Lowell. Some of our memorable events this year have included hackathons focused on data pertaining to health, medicine, the travel industry recently, social issues in Pakistan, consumer data. We've had hackathons focused on technologies such as Hadoop, Elasticsearch, Storm, Finagle. We've now hosted over 100 events for more than 5,000 people who have consumed over 25,000 hours of learning and created hundreds of interesting projects. And just like Seamus, I didn't know he was going to thank all the organizers so much, but I have to also thank the community organizers because I couldn't have run all of these events on my own. I have a lot of help from people like John and Seamus to get these kinds of great events together, and I have to thank them for that. They do it because they love it, and they love data and see the power of data science. And so do all of you. So I'd like to welcome you again this evening, and I look forward to seeing many of you at Hackers and the other local events this week. Thank you again.
So, Jonathan and I run the families group, and I'm going to spend just a few moments or a few minutes on Meetup and how it's grown and cover that. Also, I'm doing a lot of thinking, but there's a few other folks that help organize this. They're here, Matt, Pablo, Jeremy, and Dan. So we had about 12 people who were all, like, she was mentioned. Okay, so let's do some. So I realize that in Boston there's all sorts of ways that people get together for community gatherings. There's a lot of venture organizations, data, ways you get education. And Meetup is just one piece. It's relatively speaking, it's just one out of their thousands of pieces. But the focus tonight's going to be just on a small corner of Boston. So the history of Meetup actually is interesting. It was started by Scott in New York City following 9/11. And quote up there by Scott, there was a feeling after 9/11 when even strangers were kind to each other. And so Scott and his team said, hey, what if we could capture that feeling of people getting together, use the internet, and grow local communities. So that's the mission of Meetup. And when you go out to Meetup, you don't see a lot of fancy ads, display ads. It's basically, here are our groups that are hopefully relevant to folks, and the organizers behind each of them. And that's kind of the whole concept. And also for Meetup, what they did was they open sourced their data in the sense that we can do that. Whenever you go on the Meetup page, what you see, you can actually go and use their API and grab whatever data you want. So we're going to go through some of the data to kind of get some perspective on Meetup. So as of this weekend, there's now 2,682 groups. It has grown steadily, almost growing every year. You know, the business and technology groups are about 10% each. And so I thought we kind of cover some of the other types of groups. I mean, volunteer meetups are one of the largest organizations in Boston. Hiking and outdoors is really huge. Parenting groups is one of the biggest groups as well in terms of like the category where there's hundreds of groups. Socializing, small groups getting together for dinner, and pods. Pods are huge everywhere. And then tech groups, which we're used to. And so there's 326 tech groups, so I thought I would just do a quick and dirty word cloud to show you kind of how it has grown to cover developers, software, data, analytics, web, and things of that nature. But it has a long tail too. Business groups are more about networking, entrepreneurship, marketing, things like that. And so the foundation of what we have now is really built starting 10 years ago. There was groups like the Job Group that I think them and Meetup came over with the old Boston Society, Migrator, which Meetup. The groups like PHP and Python, started back then and they survived. And how it works with network devices. When I formed the analytics group, a lot of people that were already on Meetup and Python came over and joined the analytics group. So I thought I would show the PHP group and kind of the quick history of how things went for them. When they started off, they were meeting at Starbucks or the like, bars. And eventually, around 08, 09, they kind of grew a bit more, started kind of events at IBM and MIT. And then Microsoft Nerd came on board, which was huge because we were always capped for space. And now with Microsoft Nerd and Hacker Use, now there's a little bit more room to grow. And so a special thanks again to our Microsoft Nerd and everyone who hosts these meetups. In terms of tech membership, it has grown, doubling in size as well in the last couple of years. I went out and I was curious to know how many unique members are there right now in the tech community. It's 42,000, which is quite a lot. And that's spread out across 300 groups. In terms of location, not surprisingly, a lot of people in groups are city center, but then you look at a map of the region, and it's amazing to be at a meetup and have folks driving from Providence or down from New Hampshire just for a meetup. It's kind of incredible. And then the Python group is now one of the largest, it's 4,000. And so back a couple years ago, I was talking to Ned, and I was like, how big is this going to grow? This is back to the other 800 people. And so I went out to LinkedIn to try to see if I could find a way to estimate the number of Pythonistas in Boston. And it actually worked out with a pretty good correlation. I've expanded now where I show all the cities, like 20 cities of how many people are Python programmers on LinkedIn and then on Meetup. And right now, Meetup is probably about 15-20% of folks are on LinkedIn. And so I go back to Ned, and I'm like, Ned, you got 1,000 people, it's going to grow. And even now, 4,000. But there's a lot more upside. All right. And so what's happening with the Python group is they've grown so big. There's been other groups that formed. There's people who are beginners who learn Django, PyData, and there's all these new groups like 3D printing, hardware startups, Internet of Things. So it's really growing by leaps and bounds. But one of the things I thought as I finish up here, I thought to show you guys is our tech meetups are basically large lectures. So this is the number of RSVPs and the number of times we meet in the year. Down there are the groups like dinners and movies where people meet, once a week and they're all and know each other. We have such large meetups that it's like one to many. And so lately, though, what's been interesting is more groups of the same nature. So whereas each group may only have one meetup a month, because we have so many more groups, there's a lot more times to talk. And this week is kind of an epitome of that, with so many events. And then also we have new groups like Learning Python, which is having weekly meetups on how to learn Python. And so maybe out of that, people who are joining that will be collaborating. And as members across many groups, for example, with data mining and artificial intelligence, there is kind of over time you get to know people and collaborate. And this is possible because Seamus and I and Adrian, we've been talking for months about doing something like this. You can take that data and do some more analysis, to kind of figure things out. But one of the things I look at is that everyone out here, I mean, if there's a group that's not most relevant to you, where would that be? And as a community, where can we put more groups to help everyone out here? And so that's kind of the last slide that I'll leave with is like, Meetup has grown, but I think there's a lot more potential for Meetup to do, great things with everyone in terms of what everyone would like to see. So that's a little on Meetup. So we'll switch gears to our keynote. Seamus, come on.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see this place filling up nicely. Now, when we conceived this whole data week, and what you need for data week, we need a keynote, we need a good kickoff speaker. And trust me, you got at least 12 very distinct voices within that decision. And we had very exacting standards. More specifically, Jeremy here, sitting in the front row, had very exacting standards. So we wanted someone who was accomplished academically, who was also a very successful practitioner, and most importantly, would keep you guys entertained. Because you are here on a Monday night in Coleman at that. So those were our very exacting standards. And we do believe we have found such a person. And he holds a bachelor's in physics from UC Berkeley and also a master's in statistics, also from UC Berkeley, and a PhD in statistics from Yale. So he definitely got the academic accomplishment down. Now, he also has led the statistical team at Capital One, where he was chief scoring officer. For those of you who don't know, Capital One is famous for growing profitability through advanced analytics and setting a standard that many a company nowadays strives to follow. Since 2012, he has led the analytics capabilities team at American International Group, better known as AIG, a $70 billion financial company. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a very accomplished statistician, Dr. William Conley.
Is this microphone working okay? So if anyone in the back, if the sound doesn't sound right, please raise your hand, scream out. There's nothing worse than sitting there not being able to hear what the guy in front of you is saying. So I also want to calibrate my time expectation. You said 45 minutes? Is that right?
45 minutes an hour.
Okay.
As long as you keep entertained.
Okay. Okay. Well, also, let me give my welcome to you to the Boston Data Festival. It was a great honor when I had the opportunity to come and participate in some of it. I was looking at the 24 events and basically found all of them looked absolutely fascinating. I wish I could take a week off and just be here all the evenings, but it's nice to be able to participate with some of them. So for the next 45 minutes, plus or minus, my talk is about 10 challenges. And I looked up what challenge meant, and one I liked was a demanding and stimulating undertaking. So I'm going to be sharing with you stuff that I think is fun and also that I think is worthwhile. And And this is directed to you, so I had to make up. I kept on asking who's going to be here, who am I talking to? And I got lots of the normal fuzzy stuff that you might expect. So I sort of made up who I think you are. I think you're all brilliant, engaged hobbyists and professionals, and that none of you really know where the hobby stops and the professional begins, or vice versa. That you are so into the work, the two are sliding into each other. I think you're all working very hard to make better sense of an extremely complex world, and you're all working on really tough and important projects. Well, I sort of think everyone here is a data scientist. That is an extremely broad umbrella, and as such, I expect that people here have an extremely diverse set of skills and interests, and that you are all open to hearing something new and something old. So to the degree that the things I present is something old to you, and I sort of hope that much of what I say is old, please just take that as confirmation that, yeah, there's another person who also thinks that what you're doing is important and hard. To the degree that I talk about something that's new, all of us have had the experience many times in our life of the first time you hear something, and if it's new, you almost don't even realize you heard it, or it seems a little strange, but it primes you to be able to hear it better the second or the third time you hear it. So if one of my challenges seems a little offbeat, just go with the flow. It's something I think to be hard and worthwhile, and you may stumble on it again at some point down the road. Who I am. So I actually put my self-identification in there as a last generation statistician on that IRS form every year when they write down what is your profession. I write down statisticians. That is very much how I self-identify. And I want to self-document that I am very much last generation. So one aspect of that is when I was at Berkeley in the 70s, I think many of you, I hope many of you, maybe not, have heard of the Lehman-Pearson lemma. The core concept of the Lehman-Pearson lemma is that if you take the ratio of likelihoods, you actually get the most powerful test. Now, I just talked a bunch of statistics, and don't worry about it, but Jerzy Neyman is one of the structural founders of modern statistics. It's a very interesting field we're in. That here it is, a guy standing in front of the stage talking to you who's not yet in his dotage, not quite, who was actually trained by the guys that actually created the field. And so it's an amazingly young profession. So my career goes back 40 years now, which takes me a third of the way back to the 1890s, where regression was first actually the name regression, and why it's called regression was actually started. So this idea of how young our profession still is really quite amazing to me. Others of the teachers were Lehman, Joe Hodges, Savage, Frank Anscombe. So these are all big names in statistics. And it turns out they were just my teachers. I didn't even realize when I was sitting in their classes that they were quite amazing founders of the field. I got pretty good with the early technology. So I'm the last statistician that was formally trained in calculator usage. In 1977, if you wanted to be able to use the modern fangled computer, the newfangled computer at Berkeley, first you had to actually do your analysis of variance on a Monroe calculator. I think they stopped that class after me, so I'm probably the last generation still trained in calculator usage. I went to college using a slide rule. Here it is. This is the slide rule I've had my entire life. I started using my first slide rule when I was 11, and as such, slide rule usage is still in my fingers. I still keep this on my desk. I still use it on a regular basis. It's an amazing piece of technology. It took 150 years of development. A guy named William Packard invented the slide rule. So after Napier invented the concept of logarithms, 150 years of technology to get us to the slide rule. Not just the logical structure of the slide rule, but the mechanical feel of a well-designed slide rule is just exquisitely engineered. And it turns out it's in my fingers, and it's still an important computational analysis tool in my life. I worked extensively with punch cards. even paper tape. I happen to have my old computer programs here, a deck of punch cards. If you haven't seen one before, please come up. I have written tens of thousands of lines of code on punch cards, and it's still close to me. Actually, I go back before punch. Well, I don't want to say that. That's the 1890s, but here it is. This is punch paper tape. And so I used to write my computer programs here. When we used to cut and tape our programs, it was actually cut and tape, not cut and paste. It wasn't metaphorical. It was a physical cutting process to be able to edit our programs and to be able to make this work. So I actually wrote machine code. Now, what does it mean to write machine code? I bet some of you probably know. I used to actually toggle ones and zeros into a PDP-8. If you want to be motivated to learn how to write short programs, boy, there's nothing better than actually toggling in a 12-bit address. And you push a button, set the pointer there. Now you toggle in the actual ones and zeros you want there, and you load it. You toggle in the new address, and you load that. And actually, of course, the very first computer program we all wrote back then was to wake up the paper tape reader. And the first program you ever wrote was the program that reads itself and puts it out to paper tape, so you never have to type that in again. I was in Leo Bryman's 1980 first ever art class. I've been building multivariate models now for 39 years. Actually, this is a good group to ask this of. I still have my tech report and computer program from 1974 that would create and analyze a three-way full factorial design experiment in the semiconductor industry. I didn't think I was doing anything terribly interesting then. It just seemed the logical thing to do. But it might be the first three-way factorial design experiment ever done in semiconductor processing. So if anyone here has experience in the history of semiconductor manufacturing, please come and talk to me afterwards. I would love to find out actually someone predates this 1974 program. Okay, this is the calculator that I actually learned to use to calibrate you as to how hard it is. It basically takes a full day of serious work to intellectually understand how this calculator works. It's comparable to learning a new programming language. You've had a day of serious work, if you've got a new manual, and you could learn Forth. I'll bet not many people have learned Forth, but it's a cool language. A day of focused study, you basically are not that you're good on it yet. So a day of study, I still remember learning how to use it, and I enjoy every moment of it. By the way, I went up to eBay and I bought one of these a couple of years ago. I decided, how hard could it be? What's inside this magic little box? Okay, this mechanical genius. I start taking it apart. You cannot believe how complicated this machine is inside. And I am not a mechanical engineer. I had no idea how it actually works inside. I just get it apart. There are tens of thousands of individual parts. And so this is the culmination of hundreds of years of technology, and it's extremely impressive. By the way, you can still buy them on eBay. The broken ones don't cost very much. If you happen to be into this kind of stuff, buy one, have a great Saturday taking it apart, and end up with 10,000 pieces on the garage floor. Well, this is sort of funny stuff, the pictures on the internet, but what's funny is that for me, that's not internet, this is actually my life. This is the PDP-8 things. So this is the computer program. Notice that you've got the 12 indexed at 0, the 12 switches whereby you can actually set the computer to go to a particular address. Notice it's grouped in groups of 3, so we got very good in octal. I guess all the smart kids nowadays all use hex, no one uses octal anywhere. And so this is how you actually program a computer. You did it by switching switches. By the way, the PDP manual, it turns out, I still had it. I've been carrying it around for 30 years now. Actually, the underlying machine code that you actually programmed how to make this thing work. So this is the picture of the slide rule. It turns out you don't have to look at the picture. You can play with the real thing.